For 14 years, one of Rome's most beautiful stadiums has been sitting completely empty and forgotten. 1 mile from the center of one of the world's greatest cities, and SS Lazio just decided they want it as their home. But here's the twist. The biggest obstacle standing between Lazio and this dream isn't the money or the design. It's the same city that already killed one stadium project and cost another club 80 million euros for absolutely nothing. SS Lazio have never owned their own stadium, not once in 125 years, 7 decades sharing a ground with their fiercest rivals, earning almost nothing commercially, while the rest of European football built empires around them. And their answer to all of that is a 480 million euro plan to resurrect a forgotten ground and crown it with something nobody in Italian football has ever seen before. Today, we are breaking down the full story, the abandoned masterpiece that Rome forgot, the extraordinary vision Lazio have revealed, and whether this club can finally, after 125 years, call somewhere home. Let's get into it. January 9th, 1900, 9 young men in Rome founded a sports club, naming it after the surrounding region and choosing the eagle as their symbol, the same eagle that once soared above Roman legions. Over 125 years, that eagle has flown through glory and heartbreak, carrying SS Lazio to countless unforgettable moments. Yet through every victory and every triumph, there has been one thing Lazio have never had: a stadium of their own. Not once. In 125 years. That single fact is the wound at the heart of this entire story. For their first 5 decades, Lazio played across various grounds before settling in the Flaminio district at the Stadio Nazionale del PNF, the very same piece of land where this story begins and ends. In 1953, the Stadio Olimpico opened. Lazio became the very first club to play there. The PNF was demolished, and on its exact ruins, Pierluigi Nervi built the Stadio Flaminio for the 1960 Rome Olympics. Remember that detail, it matters more than you think. At the Olimpico, Lazio found success: Serie A titles, European nights, Derby della Capitale, moments that stopped the entire city. But one tension never went away. Lazio never owned it, never controlled it, and shared it with the one club they can never stand to share anything with. No naming rights, no commercial control, no revenue on non-match days. In modern football, where stadium ownership is one of the most powerful financial weapons in the game, Lazio have been fighting with one hand tied behind their back for 70 years. And then there is the atmosphere, or the lack of it. A full athletics track wraps around the pitch, keeping fans at a frustrating distance from the players. With a capacity of over 70,000 against Lazio's average attendance of around 44,000. Empty seats stretch across the stands on quiet nights. It doesn't feel like a fortress, it feels like a cavern. The urgency became impossible to ignore when AS Roma announced plans for a brand new 62,000-seat stadium in Rome's Pietralata district. If Roma build their empire, while Lazio remained the last tenant at the Olimpico, the gap stops being just about football. It becomes about the entire future of the club. Lazio tried once with the Stadio delle Aquile in 2019, an ambitious vision that promised everything, collapsed under its own weight, and was quietly buried. Another dream that Rome swallowed whole. Then Lotito looked at the map one more time, and the answer was already there. 1 mile from the city center, sitting empty and decaying, was the Stadio Flaminio. Built on the exact land where Lazio played before the Olimpico ever existed. It once hosted football finals, rugby classics, and concerts by Pink Floyd and Bruce Springsteen. But in 2011, its last tenant left, the gates closed, and the stadium slowly fell into ruin, with terraces overgrown and concrete crumbling. One of Rome's most iconic venues, it was all but forgotten. And here is the detail that makes everything feel like destiny. In 1989, during World Cup renovation works, both Lazio and Roma were temporarily relocated back to Flaminio. Lazio returned briefly to the ground built on the ruins of their original home, and then left again. Now, over 35 years later, they are coming back, this time permanently. A rival proposal suggested converting Flaminio into a swimming pool and paddle courts. Rome's City Council voted on April 3, 2025, and rejected it unanimously. Lotito presented the plans to Mayor Roberto Gualtieri, who gave his public support. On February 13, 2026, Lazio formally submitted their proposal to the city. 4 days later, Lotito took to the stage at Formello and presented the project to the world. And what he revealed that day was far more than a stadium plan. It was a vision that would make the entire football world stop and pay attention. So, what exactly is Lazio building? Let's get into it. What Lotito revealed that day was not just a stadium plan. It was a complete transformation of a ground, of a district, and of a club that has been waiting 125 years for this moment. But before anyone could celebrate, there was a problem nobody could ignore. The Flaminio is a legally protected architectural landmark. Nervi's original 1960 structure cannot be demolished, cannot be altered, cannot even be touched without government approval. For most football clubs, that restriction would have ended the project immediately. Lazio didn't walk away. Architect Marco Casamonti of Studio Archea came back with something nobody had seen before. He called it the Matryoshka concept, inspired by Russian nesting dolls. Nervi's original concrete bowl would remain completely untouched at its core, fully restored and preserved exactly as it was designed. Around it and above it, a brand new modern steel structure would rise. The two buildings would stand side by side, engineered to operate as one stadium, yet designed never to physically connect. And those 46 steel frames holding the new upper tier are not just engineering. Every single one has been individually sculpted to look like the talon of an eagle, Lazio's eagle, the symbol chosen in 1900, now rising in steel above the Rome skyline and holding the entire stadium in its grip. On match day, before the noise, before the crowd, 46 eagle talons are the first thing fans see above the city. The numbers behind the vision are just as ambitious. Capacity increases to 50,570 seats. For the first time in Lazio's history, every single seat will sit beneath a roof. The Curva Nord alone will hold 13,790 supporters, creating one of the most intimidating home ends in Italian football, compact, vertical, and designed to trap sound inside the bowl. Then came the controversy that threatened to derail everything before a single brick was laid. When early renderings leaked in 2024, Rome councillor Giovanni Caudo raised serious objections. He argued that the new 40-meter steel structure would loom over Nervi's 17-meter protected stands, potentially overwhelming the historic design beneath it. A project presented as preservation was suddenly accused of burying the very architecture it claimed to protect. It was a serious charge, especially in a city where history is not negotiable. Lazio responded by doubling down on the broader vision. They insisted this was not destruction disguised as development, but a carefully calibrated evolution. Sustainability would sit at the heart of the project. Solar panels would generate renewable energy. More than 57,000 square meters of green space would wrap around the stadium, softening its presence and reconnecting the structure with the surrounding neighborhood. The goal, they argued, was integration, a stadium that lives with the city rather than dominating it. Inside, the transformation would go beyond football. A fully interactive Lazio museum would bring 125 years of history to life, turning the new Flaminio into a cultural landmark for Rome itself. Restaurants, retail spaces, offices, concert stages, and event areas would ensure the building generates revenue every day of the year, not just on match days. The dream is drawn, the blueprint is ready. But in Italy, a blueprint and a building are two very different things, because standing between Lazio and this stadium is a wall of obstacles that has stopped bigger, better funded projects than this one dead in their tracks. So what exactly is standing in the way? Let's find out. In Italy, stadiums don't usually fail because of bad design. They fail because of paperwork, politics, and the unpredictable. And Rome has already seen this story before. In 2012, AS Roma announced a stunning new stadium at Tor di Valle, privately funded, world-class, everything Italian football needed. 9 years later, after 4 different mayors, 2 different owners, and endless court battles, the project was officially dead, not a single brick laid. Former owner James Pallada's reaction said everything. Some idiots ruined a great project for everyone. Sad. Roma burned through an estimated 60 to 80 million euros just on planning and consultants, for nothing. That is the city Lazio are trying to build a stadium in. The warning signs appeared early, in early 2025, before Lotito even took the stage for his February presentation. Italy's National Anti-Corruption Authority, ANAC, raised formal concerns. Their verdict was simple and damaging. Lazio had submitted only a preliminary economic outline, not the full feasibility project required under Italian law. ANAC also flagged that rival bidder Roma Nuoto had submitted a complete legal project, while Lazio had submitted what amounted to a sketch. Roma Nuoto immediately signaled it was ready to take the matter to the administrative court. Before the dream had even been properly announced to the world, it was already facing a legal challenge. Then, the residents made their voices heard. The Flaminio is one of Rome's most densely populated central neighborhoods. Local committee spokesperson Giulio Castelli was blunt. 50,000 fans arriving every other weekend is simply not acceptable. His demand capped the capacity at 23,000, less than half of what Lazio are planning. He called the entire proposal, in his own words, urbanistic madness. And he wasn't alone. An entire community of Romans who live meters from those stadium walls are asking one simple question: why should their neighborhood pay the price for a football club's dream? So with all of this standing in the way, how exactly does Lazio plan to pay for 480 million euros? The plan is structured carefully. The majority comes through long-term bank loans spread over 30 years, keeping immediate pressure off the club. A specially created company, completely separate from Lazio, handles all construction and management, meaning the club's own finances stay protected throughout the entire build. The city of Rome keeps ownership of the land, while Lazio get the right to commercially operate everything on it for 90 years. It is not just a stadium deal, it is a business partnership between a football club and a city. And the commercial opportunity on the other side is transformational. Right now, Lazio earn almost nothing commercially from the Olimpico. At the new Flaminio, tickets, hospitality, naming rights, concerts, and events running 365 days a year, projected to generate over 34 million euros annually. For a club that has spent 70 years as a tenant in someone else's ground, that number changes everything. But the biggest prize of all has a deadline attached to it. Italy and Turkey are confirmed co-hosts of UEFA Euro 2032. A completed Flaminio by 2031 would be a serious candidate to host international tournament matches, bringing global broadcast exposure, tourism, and commercial returns that could transform the club's financial future in a single summer. Miss that window, and the biggest opportunity this entire project offers disappears completely. The official plan targets construction starting early 2027 and the first match by 2031. But Lotito himself admitted 3 years just to lay the first brick may be realistic. Every single date depends on approvals not yet granted from authorities not yet satisfied. Roma waited 9 years at Tor di Valle and got nothing. Lazio know that story better than anyone. The difference is, Lazio have no alternative left. This is not just their best option, it is their only one. Now, Rome has to decide whether it wants to let it happen. And if it does, Lazio's next 125 years will look nothing like the last. And that is the story of the Stadio Flaminio, a ground abandoned for 14 years and a club without a home for 125 years. Do you think Lazio will finally pull this off, or will Rome swallow another stadium dream whole? Drop your answer in the comments, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.